The awakening of the Grande Royale. In the year 2145, Earth was buzzing with excitement and anticipation. The world had changed a lot since the early days of space travel. Humanity had learned to reach for the stars, and now they were preparing for their most ambitious project yet, the Grande Royale-Class cruisers. These massive ships were designed to be the pride of humanity, combining advanced technology with unmatched firepower. They were built to protect Earth and its colonies from any threats lurking in the cosmos. On a bright morning at the space dock in New Geneva, the first cruiser, named HMS Valor, stood tall against the backdrop of a clear blue sky. Its sleek hull glimmered in the sunlight, and its impressive size made it look like a titan of the sea. Crew members bustled around, checking equipment, running diagnostics, and preparing for the ship's maiden voyage. Among them was Commander Sarah Jones, a seasoned officer with a fierce determination to ensure the safety of her crew and humanity. As she walked towards the ship, her heart swelled with pride. This was not just a ship, it was a symbol of hope for all mankind. It represented years of hard work, innovation, and a dream to explore and protect the universe. Sarah remembered the day she first saw the plans for the Grande Royale-Class. She had worked tirelessly to make this day a reality, and now it was finally here. The crew assembled in the main hangar for their first mission briefing. The room was filled with excitement and nervous energy. Sarah stood at the front, her eyes scanning the faces of her crew. They were a diverse group, each member bringing unique skills and experiences to the table. Engineers, pilots, scientists, and soldiers all gathered together with one goal: to serve on the HMS Valor. "Welcome, everyone," Sarah began, her voice steady and strong. "Today, we stand on the brink of something incredible. The HMS Valor is not just a ship. It is our home and our shield. We are here to explore the unknown and protect humanity from any threats we may face." She paused, letting her words sink in. The crew listened intently, their faces filled with anticipation. "I know you all have your doubts and fears, but together, we can overcome anything. We are the best of the best, and I believe in each and every one of you." After her speech, the crew cheered, their spirits lifted. They were ready to embark on this journey, eager to prove themselves and protect their home. As they moved towards their stations, Sarah felt a wave of responsibility wash over her. Leading this crew was both an honor and a heavy burden, but she was determined to rise to the occasion. With the crew in position, the time had come for the ship to leave the dock. The sound of the ship's engines roared to life, vibrating through the metal hull. Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline as the HMS Valor slowly lifted from the ground, its massive frame gracefully ascending into the sky. The crew watched in awe as New Geneva faded below them, and the vastness of space opened up before them. "Prepare for hyperspace jump," Sarah commanded, her voice firm and clear. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her role. The crew responded with determination, their fingers flying over buttons and switches. In moments, the ship was ready. Jumping in 3, 2, 1, engage. With a surge of energy, the HMS Valor shot forward, leaving the confines of the known universe behind. Stars blurred into lines of light as they entered hyperspace. The crew erupted in cheers, celebrating their successful launch. Sarah smiled, her heart filled with pride and hope. They were on their way to discover new worlds and protect humanity. But as they traveled through the shimmering expanse of hyperspace, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of unease. It was the first time humans would venture into regions of space that were largely unexplored. She wondered what lay ahead: new planets, new life forms, and possibly new dangers. But she quickly brushed aside her worries. They had trained for this moment, and they would face whatever challenges awaited them together. After what felt like moments, the ship jolted slightly as it exited hyperspace. Sarah glanced at the view screen, her eyes widening at the sight before her. A stunning planet filled with vibrant colors spun gently in the distance. It was beautiful and inviting, But she knew better than to let her guard down. "Captain, we are approaching Prime," a voice from the communication station announced. "Sensors indicate signs of life. Open a channel," Sarah commanded, her heart racing with excitement. "Let's see if we can make contact." The crew worked quickly, and soon a transmission was established. Sarah took a deep breath, ready to greet whoever was on the other side. As the view screen flickered to life, she saw a small alien ship hovering nearby. The image was grainy, but she could make out the shape of the vessel. It looked damaged, its hull scorched and battered. The crew held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Would this be a friendly encounter, or would they face hostility? Sarah could feel the weight of history resting on their shoulders. This was more than just a mission. It was a chance to shape the future of humanity and its place in the universe. Whatever awaited them, she was ready to face it. With her crew at her side, the HMS Valor was poised to embark on an adventure that would change their lives forever. The Grande Royale-Class cruisers were awake, and humanity's journey into the stars had just begun. The encounter. The atmosphere aboard the HMS Valor was tense as the crew gathered around the view screen. The alien ship loomed closer, its damaged hull reflecting the light of the distant star. Commander Sarah Jones stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the screen, heart pounding with anticipation. This was their first contact with an alien civilization, and she knew it could either pave the way for peace or plunge them into chaos. "Adjust the communication frequencies," Sarah ordered. "Let's see if we can establish a dialogue." Her voice was steady, masking her excitement and nervousness. The crew moved swiftly, tapping away at their consoles, setting up the communication link with the unknown entity. As the crew worked, Sarah glanced around the bridge. Everyone was focused, their faces illuminated by the glow of the screens. Each person understood the significance of this moment, the weight of the history they were about to create. The HMS Valor was not just a ship, it was the embodiment of humanity's hope, a testament to their courage and determination. Finally, the console beeped, signaling that they were ready. "Channel open, Commander," a crew member announced, his fingers poised over the communication controls. "We're ready to transmit." "Let's proceed," Sarah replied, her voice calm. "This is Commander Sarah Jones of the HMS Valor. We come in peace and seek to communicate with you." She hoped her words would reach the alien beings in a way they would understand. There was a brief moment of silence, and then a series of strange sounds filled the room. The crew listened intently, trying to decipher the alien language. It was unlike anything they had ever heard. It had a musical quality, mixed with sharp bursts of sound that echoed through the bridge. Suddenly, the view screen flickered again, and the image of a tall, slender alien appeared. Its skin shimmered like polished silver, and its eyes were large and expressive, glowing softly. The alien's features were delicate and otherworldly, a stark contrast to the rough exterior of its damaged ship. "Im's Valor." The alien spoke, its voice melodic yet distorted through the communication system. "We have awaited your arrival." The words were simple, but they held a depth of meaning that resonated with Sarah and her crew. "Who are you?" Sarah asked, curiosity sparking within her. "We come seeking peace and knowledge." "Can you tell us about your people?" The alien paused, its expression unreadable. "We are the Vortons," it replied slowly. "Our world is in peril. A dark force approaches, and we seek allies to defend against it." The seriousness in its voice sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "What kind of dark force?" Sarah pressed, her heart racing. The weight of the situation was becoming clearer. They had not only encountered an alien species, they had stumbled upon a conflict that could involve their own survival. "An ancient enemy," the Vorton explained, its voice growing more urgent. "The Marauders. They come from the depths of space, driven by hatred and destruction. They seek to consume worlds and enslave those they conquer." The crew exchanged worried glances. This was a danger unlike anything they had prepared for. "What do you need from us?" Sarah asked, her mind racing with possibilities. "Help us rebuild our defenses," the Vorton pleaded. "With your technology and our knowledge of this region, we can stand against the marauders. Together, we are strong." Sarah took a deep breath, weighing her options. The HMS Valor was designed for exploration and defense, but they had no idea what they were facing. Yet the thought of turning their backs on the Vortons, who were clearly in need, felt wrong. They were a part of the galaxy now, and she couldn't ignore their call for help. "Very well," Sarah said, her voice firm. "We will assist you, but first, we need to understand the full extent of the threat we face." "Thank you, Commander," the replied, relief washing over its features. "We will guide you to our homeworld, Vorta Prime. There you will see the danger firsthand." The crew members buzzed with activity, preparing the ship for a course to Prime. Sarah felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was a defining moment for humanity, a chance to forge an alliance that could reshape their place in the universe. As the HMS Valor changed its trajectory, Sarah could feel the weight of her decision. They were stepping into the unknown, and the stakes were high. They needed them, and she had no intention of letting them down. The journey to Prime was filled with an uneasy silence. As they traveled, Sarah couldn't help but wonder about the marauders. Who were they, and how powerful were they? What would they face when they arrived at the alien planet? When the view screen finally displayed Prime, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The planet was stunning, a swirling mass of blues and greens. Tall mountains rose majestically against the horizon, and vast oceans sparkled under the light of the sun. It was beautiful, but she couldn't shake the feeling of dread creeping into her heart. "Prepare for landing," Sarah commanded, determination flooding her veins. She would protect her crew, and they at all costs. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As the HMS Valor descended towards Prime, Sarah felt a sense of resolve wash over her. They were not just observers in this universe, they were active participants in its fate. With courage and unity, they would face the challenges ahead. Humanity's journey was just beginning, and the shadows of the past were about to collide with the light of hope. The legacy. The HMS Valor touched down gently on the surface of Prime, the engines humming softly as they powered down. Sarah Jones felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as she led her crew out of the ship and onto the alien soil. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of exotic flora. The vibrant colors of the landscape were striking, with towering trees and strange plants that seemed to pulse with life. The who had communicated with them stood waiting at the foot of the ship. It was now clearer that its name was. The alien's silver skin shimmered in the sunlight, and its large eyes gleamed with hope and determination. "Welcome to Prime, friends," said, bowing slightly. "You have come at a crucial time." Sarah nodded, gesturing for her crew to follow as they walked alongside. "Can you show us where we can help?" she asked, keen to get started. The urgency in voice still echoed in her mind. "Yes, there is much to do," replied. "Our defenses have been weakened by previous attacks. The marauders are relentless, and they will not stop until they have what they want." As they walked, the crew observed the surroundings. Prime was indeed beautiful, but also marked by signs of recent battles. Ruined structures dotted the landscape, and there were areas where the ground was scorched, as if from intense heat. Sarah could see the worry etched on her crew's faces. This was a world at war, and they were stepping into the fray. They soon arrived at a large command center made of organic materials that seemed to blend with the natural environment. The walls were adorned with glowing symbols that flickered as they approached. Led them inside, where several were busy at work, monitoring data on holographic screens and discussing strategies in hushed tones. "This is our command hub," explained. "Here, we coordinate our defenses and prepare for the next attack." The tension in the room was palpable, but Sarah sensed a flicker of hope as well. They were not alone in this fight. "What can we do to help?" Sarah asked, her eyes scanning the screens. They displayed maps of Prime, showing locations of recent attacks and potential routes the marauders might take. "We need to upgrade our weaponry and fortifications," said. "Your technology could enhance our systems significantly." The crew members nodded, understanding the importance of the task ahead. Sarah turned to her engineers, giving them the signal to start assessing the technology they could offer. "Let's work together and find a way to strengthen your defenses," she said, her voice resolute. As her team began to share their knowledge, Sarah pulled Lyra aside. "What do you know about the Marauders?" she asked, wanting to gather as much information as possible. "They are brutal," replied, its voice filled with concern. "They have destroyed countless worlds. Their numbers are vast, and they are relentless in their pursuit of conquest. We must prepare, or we will fall." Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. The stakes were higher than she had imagined. "We won't let that happen," she said firmly. "Together, we can fight back." Hours passed as the crew worked side by side with thee. They combined their knowledge, exchanging ideas and technology. Sarah felt a sense of unity forming, a bond that transcended species. This was not just a mission. It was the beginning of an alliance that could change everything. Finally, after a long day of planning and preparation, they gathered around a large table to discuss their next steps. The holographic displays illuminated their faces as they reviewed the data collected on the Marauders. "We have received reports of their movements," said, pointing to a spot on the map. "They are heading toward our northern outpost." "How far away are they?" Sarah asked, her heart racing. "They will arrive in less than 24 hours, replied, its expression grave. "We must act quickly." Sarah knew there was no time to waste. "Let's mobilize the defenses at the outpost," she instructed. "We need to set up traps and prepare our forces. If we can delay them, we might be able to drive them back." The crew sprang into action, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Sarah coordinated with the organizing teams to gather supplies and fortify the outpost. She could see the determination in the eyes of her crew. They were ready to fight alongside their new allies. As night fell, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The crew stayed alert, preparing for the battle ahead. Sarah stood on a balcony overlooking the landscape, the stars twinkling above. She couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for both her crew and They had entered a new world, and its fate rested in their hands. "Commander," voice broke through her thoughts. "Thank you for your support. Your presence gives us hope." Sarah turned to face "We're in this together. We will protect each other." She meant every word. They had forged a bond that would not easily be broken. The sound of distant rumblings echoed through the night, a reminder of the impending battle. Sarah felt a surge of determination. They were ready to face whatever came their way. The crew of the HMS Valor and they would stand united against the darkness, fighting for their worlds and their futures. As the stars shone brightly above, Sarah knew that this was only the beginning. The battle would be fierce, but together, they would fight with everything they had. And in the face of danger, they would rise as the coming storm. The dawn broke over Prime, casting golden rays across the landscape. Sarah Jones stood with her crew at the northern outpost, surveying their surroundings. Tensions ran high, but there was a palpable sense of purpose among the gathered soldiers, and they had prepared as much as they could, reinforcing the perimeter with traps and hidden defenses designed by both humans and aliens. "We have to hold the line," Sarah said, addressing her team. "The Marauders will come at us with everything they've got, but we're ready. We're stronger together." Her words resonated with her crew and the soldiers standing beside them, all eager to defend their home. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the atmosphere shifted. The wind picked up, and a low rumble echoed in the distance. Sarah felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. "They're coming," she said, her voice steady but urgent. She glanced at who nodded, its expression serious. "The scouts have confirmed their approach," replied, its silver skin glinting in the sunlight. "They march with an army." The crew quickly moved to their stations, taking up defensive positions. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. This was the moment they had prepared for, but the reality of battle was always different from the plans. She joined her crew at a barricade, peering through a pair of binoculars at the horizon. At first, it was just a speck on the edge of the land, but as it grew closer, Sarah could see the Marauder fleet, a mass of dark, hulking ships descending like a shadow over the bright land. The sight sent a chill down her spine, but she reminded herself that they had the advantage of surprise and preparation. "Commander," one of her engineers called out from the communication station, "we're receiving chatter from the Marauder ships. They're planning to bombard our position first." "We need to take out their artillery," Sarah replied quickly. "Can your forces flank them? We can use the caves to conceal our movements," Leora suggested, its mind racing. "It will give us the element of surprise." "Then let's do it," Sarah commanded, adrenaline surging through her veins. "We'll split our forces. Vorten units will launch from the east while we hold the line here." As her plan unfolded, Sarah could feel her heart pounding in her chest. The anticipation was almost overwhelming. She motioned for her crew to prepare the defensive weapons, ready to engage the enemy. Vorten's soldiers took their positions alongside them, their bodies tense with focus. "Keep an eye out for the signal," she instructed. "Once Leora's troops engage, we'll counterattack from the front." The sound of explosions in the distance echoed ominously, sending clouds of dirt and debris into the air. The Marauders were attacking the outpost, firing from their ships above. Sarah shouted orders as her crew responded, firing back with the ship's turrets, aiming for the ships that loomed in the sky. But the Marauders were relentless. The ships continued to rain down destruction, sending Vorten warriors scattering. "Hold your ground," Sarah yelled, her voice hoarse from the effort. She could see Leora's forces moving out to flank the Marauders, their movements agile and quick. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them. A massive explosion lit up the horizon, and Sarah stumbled, almost losing her footing. "Get back to your positions," she cried, regaining her balance. She spotted Leora directing its soldiers, coordinating their movements flawlessly. Through the chaos, a flicker of hope ignited in Sarah's chest. The Vorten troops were engaging the Marauders, their weapons lighting up the battlefield as they fought valiantly. The Marauders were caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, and the tide began to shift. "Now, advance," Sarah commanded, rallying her crew. They moved as one, pushing forward, ready to exploit the Marauders' disarray. They fired their weapons, targeting the enemy ships while the Vortens pressed on, launching an offensive that had been years in the making. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Explosions, flashes of light, and the sounds of combat filled the air as both sides fought fiercely. Sarah's heart raced as she ducked and weaved through the battlefield, leading her crew alongside the Vortens. Together, they formed a united front, holding their ground against the Marauders. But the enemy was numerous, and soon they began to regroup. The Marauders were relentless, and Sarah could see their ships circling back, preparing for another assault. "We need to push them back," she shouted. "They can't take our home." As if in response to her words, Leora's forces surged forward, working in perfect synchronization with the crew of the HMS Valor. They fought side by side, a testament to the strength of their newfound alliance. Each time a Vorten fell, another human stepped in to fill the gap, and vice versa. The line held strong. But then, a dark shadow passed overhead. A massive Marauder ship descended, far larger than any they had encountered. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "What is that?" she asked, scanning the skies. "That's their flagship," Leora said, its voice trained. "We must take it down before it unleashes its firepower." "Then let's do it," Sarah replied, determination flooding her veins. "We have to destroy it. It's now or never." As the crew rallied together, they focused their fire on the flagship, their combined strength finally pushing back the Marauders. The tides of battle had turned, and hope ignited within Sarah's heart. With one last push, they would defend their home. Together, they were unstoppable. With the dawn fading, they forged ahead. They were not just fighting for Vorta Prime, but for the bond between their species. In this moment of unity, they would rise as heroes, proving that together they could face any storm that threatened their worlds. The heart of the storm. The battle raged on as Sarah and her crew fought fiercely against the Marauder forces. Explosions lit up the sky, and the air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burnt metal. The sound of laser blasts filled their ears, and adrenaline coursed through Sarah's veins. They were on the front lines, where every second counted, and failure was not an option. "Target the flagship's engines," Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "If we can disable it, we might buy enough time to regroup." As if her words were a signal, the crew quickly adjusted their aim, focusing fire on the massive ship looming overhead. It was a monstrous behemoth, bristling with weaponry and adorned with the insignia of the Marauder Empire. Its engines glowed ominously, ready to unleash destruction. Leora moved alongside her, directing Vortin's soldiers as they exchanged fire with the enemy. The Vortins fought with fierce determination, their agile forms darting in and out of cover, their advanced weaponry blazing with a deadly precision that complemented the humans' technology. "We're almost in range," one of the crew members called out, sweat glistening on his forehead as he worked the controls. "Just a few more seconds." As they continued to bombard the flagship, Sarah caught a glimpse of the Marauder troops scrambling to defend their command ship. They were panicking, losing cohesion. It was a sign of weakness, and she felt a surge of hope. Perhaps they could turn the tide of this battle after all. But then, an ominous rumble echoed through the battlefield. The ground shook violently, and Sarah stumbled, nearly losing her footing. She looked up in alarm to see a new threat emerging from the flagship, a massive cannon, its barrel glowing with a menacing light. "Everyone, take cover," Sarah yelled, her heart racing. She pushed Leora down behind a barricade as the cannon fired, a blinding beam of energy slicing through the air. The shot obliterated everything in its path, creating a massive explosion that sent debris flying in all directions. As the dust settled, Sarah looked around, her heart sinking. They had lost ground, and the Marauders were advancing. "We need to regroup. Fall back to the secondary line," she commanded, her voice filled with urgency. The crew responded quickly, retreating under the cover of fire from both sides. They moved as one, weaving through the chaos while Vortins provided support from the flanks. Each step felt like a battle, but Sarah remained focused, her mind racing with strategies to counter the Marauders' advantage. Once they reached the secondary line, Sarah took a moment to assess their situation. The fight was brutal, and the losses were mounting. She could see wounded soldiers being pulled back to safety, and her heart ached for them. They had come together to fight for a common cause, and now they were paying the price. "What's our status?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We've lost communication with several units," Leora reported, its expression grave. "But we can still coordinate our efforts. We have to disrupt their artillery." "Agreed," Sarah replied, determination hardening in her chest. "Let's split our forces. Leora, take half of your troops and flank them from the east. We'll create a distraction while you target the artillery." "Understood," Leora replied. It turned to its soldiers, issuing commands in a swift and efficient manner. As the Vortins moved out, Sarah gathered her crew. "We're going to create a diversion," she said, her voice low but fierce. "We'll draw their fire and give Leora the chance they need. Stay focused, and keep your heads down." The crew nodded, steeling themselves for the task ahead. They had faced impossible odds before, and they were ready to fight for their home once more. With a deep breath, Sarah led her crew into the fray. They emerged from their cover and advanced toward the Marauder lines, firing their weapons as they went. The sounds of battle erupted around them, and Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline. They were alive, and they were fighting together. As expected, the Marauders focused their fire on Sarah's group, drawn to the sudden burst of activity. This was their chance. "Now, Leora," she shouted, signaling for the Vortons to move. In perfect unison, Leora's forces emerged from the shadows, launching an assault on the Marauder artillery. The surprise attack caught the enemy off guard, and the battlefield erupted into chaos once more. "Keep pushing," Sarah yelled to her crew, their energy surging as they pressed forward. The enemy was reeling, and the Marauders had underestimated the strength of their united front. Explosions rocked the ground as Leora's troops targeted the Marauder artillery with deadly precision. The powerful weapons that had threatened to obliterate their position were taken out one by one, and Sarah could see hope shining in the eyes of her crew. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new wave of Marauder reinforcements appeared on the horizon. The ground shook beneath them as the Marauders charged forward, their numbers overwhelming. "Fall back," Sarah shouted, but it was too late. The Marauder forces surged like a tidal wave, intent on crushing everything in their path. The odds had shifted again, and the battle raged on, chaos surrounding them as Sarah fought to maintain hope in the face of despair. In that moment, as she looked at her crew fighting bravely against the oncoming storm, Sarah felt a flicker of something within her, a determination to fight not just for survival, but for the bonds they had formed. They were more than allies. They were a family, and together they would face whatever came next. A turning point. The battlefield was engulfed in chaos. The air crackled with energy from laser fire, and the ground shook with the force of explosions. Sarah and her crew had been pushed back, but they refused to give in. They were battered and bruised, but their spirits burned with the fierce resolve to fight for each other and for humanity. "Keep moving," Sarah yelled, rallying her crew as they maneuvered behind cover. Her heart raced as she scanned the chaotic scene. Leora's troops were still engaging the Marauders, but the reinforcements had changed the tide of the battle, and the Marauders seemed to have the upper hand. "We need to regroup," Sarah shouted. "We can't let them break our lines. We need to fall back to the rendezvous point." Just as the words left her mouth, a Marauder soldier spotted them and raised a weapon. Sarah instinctively moved to protect her crew, but was faster. In a swift motion, the soldier took out the enemy with a precise shot, the body falling lifelessly to the ground. "We have to hurry," urged, gesturing for the crew to follow. They began to retreat, moving as quickly as they could while firing at the advancing Marauder forces. Each step felt like a battle, but they had trained for this. As they fell back, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. She glanced back at and saw determination etched into its features. "We can't give up now," Sarah said, trying to bolster her own spirits as much as "We have to find a way to strike back. We can't let them win." "I have a plan," replied, its voice steady. "If we can reach the command post, we may be able to disrupt their communications and weaken their coordination. It's risky, but it's our best shot." Sarah nodded, her heart racing. The command post was heavily guarded, but the idea of disrupting the enemy's communications was worth the risk. "Then let's do it. We'll need a distraction to pull their attention away from the command post." Leora nodded in agreement. "I'll take a small team to create a diversion. You and the rest of your crew can move in while they are distracted." "Let's make it count," Sarah said, feeling the weight of their situation pressing down on her. "Stay safe. We'll meet you at the rendezvous point." With that, and a handful of soldiers split off from the group, moving swiftly to create their distraction. Sarah felt a sense of anxiety creep in as she watched them go. The battlefield was unpredictable, and every moment counted. "Let's move," Sarah commanded, rallying her crew as they continued their retreat. They moved with purpose, adrenaline pumping through their veins as they made their way toward the command post. As they approached, Sarah could see the enemy soldiers guarding the entrance. "We need to find another way in," she whispered urgently. "There are too many up front." Just then, the ground shook as distraction began. Explosions erupted in the distance, and Sarah could see the Marauder forces beginning to shift their attention. "Now's our chance," she shouted, leading her crew toward a side entrance. They slipped inside the building, heartbeats racing as they navigated the dark corridors. The tension in the air was palpable as they moved cautiously through the command post, each step feeling like it could lead to disaster. "This way," Sarah directed, her instincts guiding her deeper into the heart of the enemy's operations. They found a control room filled with blinking screens and frantic operators. The Marauders were focused on the distraction outside, and Sarah knew they had to act quickly. "Get to work on disabling their communications," she commanded her crew. "We need to disrupt their coordination." The crew sprang into action, fingers flying over the controls. Sarah kept an eye on the door, her heart racing as she listened to the sounds of battle outside. The explosions echoed through the building, a constant reminder of the stakes they were facing. "I'm in," one of the crew members shouted. "I can take down their communication systems, but I'll need a minute." "We don't have a minute," Sarah replied, glancing nervously at the door. "Hurry." Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, and Sarah's heart dropped. "They're coming," she hissed. "Get ready." The crew braced themselves as the door burst open. Marauder soldiers charged into the room, weapons raised. Sarah and her crew sprang into action, returning fire as chaos erupted. "Cover me," Sarah shouted, diving for cover behind a console. She could see her crew fighting valiantly, but they were outnumbered, and the odds were against them. "Almost there," the crew member working on the controls shouted, sweat pouring down his forehead. "Just a little longer," Sarah urged, her heart pounding. As the Marauder soldiers pressed forward, Sarah knew they had to hold their ground. They fought fiercely, each member of the crew doing their part, but the enemy numbers were overwhelming. "I'm done," the crew member yelled suddenly. "Their communications are down." "Let's go," Sarah commanded, adrenaline surging through her veins. They needed to get out of the command post while they still could. With a renewed sense of purpose, the crew regrouped and pushed back against the Marauders, fighting their way to the exit. The sound of alarms blared as the building shook with the force of the battle outside. "We're almost there," Sarah shouted, leading her crew through the chaos. They burst out of the building into the open air, the battlefield stretching out before them. But as they emerged, they saw the scene unfolding before them. Marauder forces were retreating, disoriented without their command. Diversion had worked, and the tide of battle was turning. "Look," one of her crew members shouted, pointing to the retreating Marauders. "They're breaking." With a fierce shout, Sarah raised her weapon, determination flooding her heart. "Now's our chance. Let's finish this." Together, they charged into the fray, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they had struck a significant blow against the enemy. The battle wasn't over, but hope ignited within them, a fire that could not be extinguished. As the chaos unfolded, Sarah felt a surge of pride swell within her. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other. Together, they would stand against whatever darkness awaited them. The victory was not yet secured, but they had taken a critical step forward. And with it, they found a glimmer of hope, the dawn of unity. The battle raged on, the sounds of war echoing through the once peaceful valley. Sarah and her crew pressed forward, fueled by a fierce determination to protect their newfound allies and drive back the Marauders. The tide had shifted, but the fight was far from over. As they advanced, Sarah glanced at who was fighting alongside her. The skills were impressive. It moved with agility and precision, taking down enemies with expert shots. Sarah felt a sense of camaraderie growing between them, a bond forged in the heat of battle. "This way," Sarah shouted, leading her crew around a crumbling wall. The scene before them was chaotic but promising. The Marauders were disorganized, their once synchronized movements now filled with confusion and fear. "We have them on the run. Let's push forward."